The storm rolled over the Montana plains like a wounded beast, snarling with thunder and dragging sheets of rain behind it. The old ranch house stood like a soldier against the wind, its lights flickering, its porch creaking, its soul silent. Inside, Samuel Crane, a rancher with a jawline carved from years of grit and solitude, sat by the fire, his weathered hands gripping a mug of black coffee that had long gone cold. He'd been alone for too long, 3 years since his wife passed, leaving him with nothing but the echo of her laughter in the empty halls and the endless ache of a heart that refused to heal. He wasn't looking for company, much less redemption. But that night, redemption came knocking, literally. At first, he thought the sound was the storm throwing another branch against the window. But when it came again, frantic, desperate, human, he stood. The old wood floor creaked under his boots as he crossed to the door. When he pulled it open, lightning split the sky, revealing a girl, no, a woman. But barely, drenched to the bone. Her dress torn, her eyes wide and pleading. She couldn't have been more than 20. Her hands trembled as she clutched something around her shoulders, an old shawl soaked through and clinging to her skin. "Please," she gasped, her voice breaking between the thunderclaps. I didn't know where else to go." Samuel blinked, his instincts warring between caution and compassion. He'd seen fear before, in men, in animals, in himself, but this was different. This was pure, raw terror. "You'd better come in," he said gruffly, stepping aside. She stumbled through the door, the warmth of the fire hitting her face as she shivered uncontrollably. He shut the door, locking the storm outside. She stood there, dripping water onto the wooden floor, her chest heaving. "Sit by the fire," he said, pulling an old blanket from the couch. "You'll catch your death standing there like that." She nodded, her teeth chattering, and sank down onto the rug near the hearth. Samuel draped the blanket over her shoulders, his calloused hands brushing briefly against her skin, and for a moment, he felt the tremor of her fear pulse through him like an electric current. "What's your name?" he asked, pulling up a chair beside her. "Clara," she whispered. "Clara May." Her eyes flickered toward him, green and frightened, but strong beneath the surface, like someone who'd had to be brave for too long. "I didn't mean to bother you, sir. I was running." "Running?" Samuel frowned. "From what?" Her gaze dropped to the fire. "From him," she said softly. "The men my uncle sold me to." The words hit Samuel like a branding iron to the chest. Sold. The world outside these plains had grown darker, crueler. And yet hearing it from her lips twisted something deep inside him. "How old are you?" he asked. 19, she said. "He's 50. I couldn't do it. I couldn't be his." Her voice cracked, and she covered her face with her hands. "So I ran. I ran until I saw your light." Samuel leaned back, his jaw tight, the old pain of his past stirring awake. His wife, Lila, had died from fever after years of trying for a child. He'd sworn never to open his heart again, never to let the world's cruelty touch him, and yet here it was, sitting by his fire, trembling under his roof. He stood and went to the kitchen, pouring her a cup of coffee, then added milk and sugar. "Here," he said quietly, handing it to her. "Drink. You're safe here." But the moment he said it, he saw something flicker in her eyes, disbelief. As if the word safe was a language she no longer understood. She sipped the coffee, her fingers still shaking. For a while, they said nothing. The fire crackled. The storm outside began to fade into a steady rain. When she finally spoke again, her voice was barely above a whisper. "You don't know what it's like, Mr. Crane. Samuel Crane. Mr. Crane," she continued. "When someone takes everything from you, your home, your freedom, your worth, and tells you your only value is what a man will pay to own you." Her eyes glistened. "You start to believe it." Samuel's throat tightened. He didn't know what to say. But he did know what it was like to lose everything, just in a different way. "No one owns you," he said finally. Not now. Not ever again. The wind howled once more, and Clara flinched. Samuel reached out, resting his hand lightly on her shoulder. She froze, then exhaled, slowly. For the first time, she didn't pull away. Minutes passed. Then, with trembling fingers, she reached up and unclasped the soaked shawl that had been clinging to her since she arrived. It fell to the floor with a wet thud. Underneath, her dress was torn, the marks of struggle visible on her arms. Samuel froze, his breath catching in his throat. "I took it off," she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Please, don't send me away." He stared at her, not with desire, but with shock, with pity, with a rage burning behind his steady gaze. She thought she needed to give herself to survive. She thought men only saw her body, not her soul. But Samuel Crane was not that kind of man. He knelt before her, his voice rough but kind. "Clara," he said softly, "you don't need to do that. Not here. Not ever again." His words cracked through the silence like thunder. "You don't owe me anything." Her lip trembled. "But they always said I had to. That if a man helped me, I had to." She broke down, sobbing. "I don't know how to just be." Samuel's hand hovered for a moment, then he reached for her hand. Her skin was cold, fragile, but alive. "Then start here," he said. "Start by learning you're more than what they made you believe." She looked up at him, her tears glimmering in the firelight. And for a long time, neither spoke. The only sound was the steady rhythm of the rain against the roof, and the faint whisper of the fire. Like a heartbeat. Steady and strong. That night, he gave her the guest room, laid out clean sheets, and left the lamp burning low. When she hesitated at the doorway, he said softly, "You can lock the door if it helps you sleep." She nodded, whispering, "Thank you, Mr. Crane." He nodded back, tipping his hat slightly before walking away. But Samuel didn't sleep that night. He sat by the fire, staring into the embers, thinking about the brokenness of the world, and the strange way fate had brought that girl to his door. Something in her reminded him of his wife, not in looks, but in spirit. Lila had always said, when a soul's been beaten down, kindness can be the rope that pulls it back up. Maybe this was his chance to honor her words. At dawn, Samuel went out to the barn, the air still damp and cool. He saddled his horse, expecting to ride into town for supplies. But when he turned, he saw Clara standing by the door, dressed in one of his late wife's old dresses. The fabric loose on her frame but clean and dry. She looked different. Still fragile, but steadier. "I found this in the trunk," she said shyly. "I hope that's all right." He nodded. She'd be glad someone's wearing it again. They worked side by side that day, mending fences, feeding horses, fixing the chicken coop. She didn't complain once. In fact, there were moments, fleeting but real, when she smiled. By evening, she sat on the fence rail, the sunset painting her face gold and crimson. "I don't remember the last time I felt free," she murmured. Samuel watched her quietly, his chest tight with something he hadn't felt in years, hope. As days turned into weeks, Clara began to laugh again, to hum when she worked, to find her strength. But there were still nights when the fear came back, when she'd wake from nightmares and stand silently in the hall until Samuel found her. He never asked questions. He'd simply light the lamp and sit with her until dawn. One night, as snow began to fall for the first time that winter, Clara looked at him across the fire. "You could have turned me away," she said softly. "Why didn't you?" Samuel stared into the flames for a long moment before replying. "Because I saw someone worth saving," he said simply. "And because someone once saved me." Her eyes filled again, not with fear, but with something gentler. Gratitude. Maybe even love. She reached across the space between them, her hand trembling slightly, and laid it over his. "Thank you," she whispered. He turned his hand, fingers closing around hers, firm and warm. For a moment, the world outside vanished. It was just them, two broken souls, holding on. I took it off, she'd said that first night, thinking it was the only way to be safe. But now, sitting by the same fire weeks later, she realized what she'd truly shed that night wasn't her shawl or her dress. It was her fear. Her shame. Her past. And Samuel Crane, the rancher who'd once sworn he'd never love again, found his heart stirring, alive once more. Outside, the snow fell softly.